Architecture has many ways of looking at it. Say, as a designer, how you can approach design. There are different ways an architect can approach a design process. You can start with a form. So the form would be the generator for your architecture. You can start with space. Then space is the generator. So for me, of course, I start with always space. The form comes the last thing to my kind of dreaming. So my approach to architecture is, the space and how I can assemble the spatial progression is a key factor. And then when you assemble the spaces, how you bring the spaces into three-dimensional form is also very important. And there comes the language, the language of architecture, how you communicate your product to the outsiders. So the material that we use and the element that we use in architecture also has a huge impact on how we cater to those, the natural elements. So the roof has a main role to play, and then the walls and their textures and features like windows, doors, columns, and the spaces like corridors, how they come into composition is very important. If you talk about tropical architecture and the modernism, how the modern movement in architecture has an impact on the trends of tropical architecture. I think this modernism is more appropriate for the countries like Europe, where you don't get much the rain, where you don't need to protect your elements of your building like walls and windows, doors from the rain. There where you don't need an eave. So you can go for these modern trends of box type of buildings and modern material and all that. But for a tropical country like the country where we are living in, we'll have to cater to the rainy conditions and the wind situations and how we protect our elements of buildings from the weather conditions. So there, for me, a roof is a key element, and how you take the roof into play, how you compose roof into composition, and how you take the people in the journey on the building through corridors, through spaces, it's very important. So for me, of course, if I say ultimately, architecture for me is about space and how you assemble space and manipulate them and create an experience in people's mind. If they're happy in a space that I create and if they feel peaceful, so that would be the objective of my kind of a design. There are a lot of avenues that architect can contribute. Say, for an example, in my life, I got an opportunity to be the assistant production designer and the storyboard artist and the set designer and the prop designer for an epic film produced in Sri Lanka. It was produced by Light of Asia Foundation, Chairman Naveen Gunratne, a film named Sri Siddhartha Gautama. And they are having the opportunity to first to do the storyboard for the film. And I had a chance to sit with the director and the producer and the scriptwriter, and it was really inspiring that how being an architect being able to understand the three-dimensional space that has been created in the director's mind, and by reading the script, how I could contribute into the spaces and of the film, and how I could understand the director's requirement was very useful. I must say that director was really happy that he had been able to work with a person who understands the three-dimensional imagination. Of course, he initially didn't know that I'm an architect, but later he came to realize that I'm an architect, and he was happy that architect coming into the film, set making, was a blessing. And we did the whole film in a book in black and white, and to suit to the CinemaScope screen, and that was a wonderful experience. Virtually, you can dismantle that into 3 units, and you can change the color, you can turn them upside down, and you can dress them up and put some elements on top, and you can take them, make them into a table. Sort of a kind of a innovation was brought into action. Of course, being an architect, very few projects I did on interior design, but being a film set designer and an art director, I had the opportunity to expose myself into a different avenue, innovating, different techniques of using the same thing for many activities, and made me understand how we can do wonders with, design tools to innovate something good for interior.